Still, there is much conversation surrounding the fallout from the bizarre end to the final of AFCON in Rabat, Morocco on Sunday night. For those who don't know, Morocco, the host nation, got to the final. That in itself was somewhat controversial because allegations that they were helped on the way. Anyway, that's by the by. But in that final, Senegal, who had won the tournament before, Morocco were trying to win it for a first time. In the 92nd minute, Morocco were awarded a penalty, which saw the Senegalese players ordered off the pitch in protest by their own manager, Pape Thiaw. They thought they'd scored a perfectly legit goal just moments before. 17 minutes after the penalty was awarded, Senegal players came back onto the pitch. The resultant penalty for Morocco was missed by Brahim Diaz after he attempted a panenka. Pape Guy then scored the winning goal in the 4th minute of extra time, and that sealed another AFCON title for Senegal. But now the Moroccan FA is talking seriously about legal action against the Senegalese. Osasu Obai Yuwana is an African football journalist who was there on the night, followed the whole tournament, and joins us live on the show. Osasu, good morning to you. What possible legal recompense could make up for losing out on the AFCON trophy?
Absolutely nothing.
So why are they bothering going through this then?
To put it in French, je ne sais pas. I don't know why they're doing this. It's not going to change the result, but I have a feeling that the Moroccans want Pape Thiaw to be severely punished. And if he is severely punished, that could lead to him missing out on opening games of the World Cup in June. Other than that, I don't see what else can be done to him. There is no argument, none whatsoever, that for a manager to tell his team to go off while the finals of the AFCON is being played is an absolute no-no. You can't do that.
Yes.
However, it's a big however. You know, this incident, this fiasco needs to be interpreted in its right context. The quality of officiating, in fact, using the word the quality, I think is a misnomer. the abysmal officiating in this competition is what provoked this fiasco. And I find it really sad because at the last AFCON in the Ivory Coast, the quality of officiating was first rate. The use of VAR in that competition was first rate. It was so good that you guys were even saying that the Premier League should take a cue from CAF and from the AFCON of that 24 on how VAR should be administered in the Premier League. And it's not often you guys see anything from Africa and say, you know, we need to take a cue from this. But for those of us who understand the game in Africa and the politics behind football, the terrible officiating in this tournament is directly linked to the sacking of the head of referees, an Ivorian named Doué Numandiès, who was largely responsible for the very excellent management of referees at the 2024 AFCON. This man was fired in Nairobi just on the eve of the Championship of African Nations in August. The staff of CAF have not received any official explanation as to why that guy was fired. And it has been shown, it is clearly shown from August till now, that the management of referees within CAF has deteriorated very badly since his sacking.
I see. So you were in the stadium, Osasu, and you watched it very closely with everybody else. And Senegal thought they'd scored a perfectly legitimate goal. Did you know? And it was chalked off.
They did score a legitimate goal. Not they thought. It was a legitimate goal. There's no question about this. And had that goal, you see, the problem was that the referee had already blown for a previous offense before the goal was scored. So the VAR room couldn't even intervene. That wasn't a huge problem because once a previous offense has been blown for, then whatever happens after that, the VAR room can't come in. And so what should have been a perfectly legitimate goal was disallowed. And then that penalty followed. And that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. I'll tell you something else. on the Saturday before the final, I was at the pre-match presser, and the atmosphere, the tension at that press conference was tremendous. You could cut it with several knives, not just one. And from the attitude of Pathiao, it was clear to me that should there be anything of serious note at the final, that would trigger him off. And it did.
Wow.
The penalty did that.
I mean, we were talking about this, Simon and
Mr.
myself.
Jordan, do you have any questions for me?
Go on, Simon.
Well, listen, fascinatingly, I didn't disagree with anything that you've said. I mean, I think the nature of any legal challenge, if indeed it's a legal challenge rather than an affairs being driven into the administrative confines of AFCON, is to make sure there's a consequence for Senegal and their manager. And if it requires a legal intervention or some degree of strength from the Moroccan FA, then I think it's entirely appropriate, because I think what the Senegalese did was totally and utterly unacceptable in the context of a sporting environment. No other sport would you be able to walk off a field in any other walk of life, in any other sport, whether it be rugby or cricket or football as the world's biggest sport, and accept the fact that the game reconvenes at your leisure. So I think it's totally and utterly unacceptable. So I think it's entirely appropriate that the Moroccans do something about at least getting some pound of flesh in the consequence of Senegal and their manager.
Yeah.
Moving on to the issues surrounding the quality of officiating, it's an interesting one, and I take it on board your points about the observation of how VAR was deployed. But I remember talking about officiating on an AFCON tournament where referees were blowing up early in a game, and that had nothing to do with VAR. So when we talk about the standard of officiating, it's been a constant thorn in your side at AFCON about the level of quality. So it hasn't just manifested itself in this tournament, and they shouldn't be conflated into an argument that gives any manager any kind of temperature check to be able to allow himself to be in a situation where he brings the game into and the tournament into complete and utter degradation and disrepair and disrepute.
Now that you have spoken in your characteristic form, can I respond?
Of course.
I totally agree that there is no excuse for what he did. Okay. It is a no-no to leave the field.
Yep.
Absolutely. This is not in dispute at all. But I have to insist that even when wrong is done, there is often a context in which it is done.
Agreed. And not as a justification, though, is it?
No, it's not a justification. It's an explanation.
Fair comment.
There's a huge difference between a justification
Fair comment.
and an explanation. CAF must address the root causes of what led to the fiasco. I could see what was happening coming from miles away.
And that's a fair point.
You know, if you watched some games during the group stages, Simon, Chancel Mbemba handled the ball in the penalty box. It was a clear penalty, but lo and behold, there was no penalty. There was not even a VAR review. How can this be acceptable? It's not acceptable.
Does your conclusion draw you towards a slightly sinister outcome, which is corruption, or does it draw your mind towards ineptitude and incompetence?
To be honest, it's a potpourri of all of them.
Yeah.
It's not just one thing or the other. All. I think there is some undue influence, but I think there's largely incompetence. And you know, when people say Morocco is this, Morocco is that, I say rubbish. You know why? In football or in the general world of geopolitics, every nation tries to maximize whatever advantage they can.
Indeed.
This is just realpolitik, and we can't change that.
Just one. Can I ask one?
Go on, Danny.
Can I finish? Can I just finish before?
Go on, Osasu.
My question. You can't change that. What CAF has to do as the umpire, as the arbiter, is to ensure that they are fair, that they are strict in the applications of the rules, and that they administer them without fear or favor. That's their responsibility.
Indeed. Danny.
Simple as.
Here's Danny, Osasu.
Just one quick question for me. Do you think the Moroccan FA would be seeking justice or punishment for this act if the player's ego hadn't got out of the better of him and he'd scored the penalty?
Wouldn't need to, would they?
Who knows? I mean,
That's
obviously, if they had won the AFCON, then knowing how passionate and how happy the Moroccans would have been, they probably would have just let it pass.
Exactly.
But look, I was in this country for 32 days. The Moroccans wanted this title like nothing I've ever seen before. They haven't had this title in their hands since 1976. So it's a deep wound that they have failed to win this trophy. And I want to go on to another thing, if you don't mind. Walid Regragui, the manager, has done an outstanding job in the last 3.5 years. He has taken them and Africa to the semi-finals of a World Cup, which has never been done before. He has qualified them for a successive World Cup. He has also led Morocco to their first AFCON final in 22 years. Yes, they didn't win at home, but forget about the shenanigans that happened on Sunday. Senegal were the best team of the AFCON. They had the most balanced side of the AFCON. And in my opinion, with or without shenanigans, they would have won the game. They are that good.
Yeah.
So Regragui has earned the right to take Morocco to the World Cup in the summer. But it is ludicrous that some people in Morocco want him gone. I mean, at the press conference after the match,
I saw that. Yeah.
I mean, some of the questions from the Moroccan journalists were just so insulting and so disrespectful.
Yes. Osaso, I've got to say, we are delighted with your contribution and that you joined us live this morning. I've got one final one for you. In a sentence or two, as difficult as it is, what's your takeaway from AFCON 2026? How will you remember it?
From the football, great tournament. The quality of the football at this tournament has probably been the highest I've ever seen it. And one of the things that contributed to that are the world-class facilities that were on offer for this tournament. The pitches were superb. The stadia were great. And then so the players had the stage on which to play to the maximum of their potential. On the governance side, I just want CAF to do their bloody job. Pardon my swearing.
Well said.
They should do their job and govern football the way it should be governed. The AFCON is a biennial event, and despite the fact that Mosepe, the president of CAF, has said it will be 4 years, I hope that doesn't happen, because to change the format of the AFCON will be a near-death blow for football in Africa.
Osaso, I've got to say to you, you're welcome in the studio at any time. We'll keep in touch with you and we'll see where it goes. But again, and I emphasize this, we've thoroughly enjoyed your contribution. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Osaso Obe Ioana, African football journalist who was there for 32 days in Morocco and watched them lose the final with the last kick of the ball virtually to Senegal. What a moment that was. 11:30.